What if your drinking didn't just take away your relationships or your peace, but the unimaginable? Today's guest was given 2 weeks to live, a 4% chance of surviving surgery, and somehow that wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning.
Welcome to the Sober Life Rocks podcast. You may have made the decision not to drink alcohol, or at the very least, not at work-related events. Whether you've never been a drinker, are in recovery, or made a health-related decision, we see you, and you are not alone. In today's world, networking, socializing, and celebrations often happen over drinks, and the struggle can be real. Through this podcast, we're changing that narrative. We're here to create a community where individuals like you, who choose not to drink or drink less, can find camaraderie, support, and practical advice.
Welcome back to Sober Life Rocks, the podcast where we amplified bold, unapologetic voices in the sober movement. Before we dive in, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind. As an entrepreneur myself, I spend most of my time pouring into my clients. But there's days when I long for someone to pour into me. If you're listening and can relate, you belong at Amplify Sober Voices. This event is for sober thought leaders, speakers, writers, podcasters, coaches, influencers, anyone who's ready to turn their sober story into serious impact. By gathering together, we can lift each other up and achieve even greater impact with collaborations and new tools. It's all happening on January 15th, 2026 in Orlando. Grab your ticket now at amplifysobervoices.com and join the leaders redefining what's possible. Now, today's guest, Will Gordon, has one of the most jaw-dropping recovery stories we've ever heard. Not just because of where alcohol took him, but because of what he's done with his life since getting sober. He's a teacher, a podcaster, and a mentor who's using his second chance to make a difference. This conversation will leave you inspired, grounded, and honestly speechless. So let's get into it. Will, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Margie, for having me on this. What a lovely intro, by the way. You are fantastic at what you're doing, so keep it up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really like to kind of start with just understanding the role that alcohol played in your family of origin when you were growing up. And so just maybe start there and kind of get into a little bit of like how alcohol first started showing up for you.
Sure. So first and foremost, thank you so much for having me come on the podcast. It's just truly a privilege to be on. So thank you so much. So for me, alcohol was always around my life. I grew up in a home that was, let's just say, very loose with alcohol. It was much a part of each family gathering, parties, and just overall life. I really didn't know any other than alcohol kind of in the home. I thought it was just something that you did as you kind of matured and got older, and then you hit the age of 21, and then you really kind of could become an adult. So I was the youngest of four boys in a very competitive athletic household, and I had a very strict father from an Irish Catholic upbringing who from the East Coast in Boston. It's a very common story. So it was a normal childhood, honestly. I really enjoyed my childhood. My brothers were all super competitive, and we all had really high standards that we had to live up to in my father's regard, right? But as years would go on, I started noticing that my identity was slowly kind of dissipating. Like I didn't really know who I was because I didn't know how to kind of deal with my issues. I didn't know how to deal with my problems. And the easiest solution to those problems was alcohol, because I saw it everywhere. It was a big part of my family life. So once I did reach the legal age of 21, that's when I really started hitting it. But even before then, like I think I had my first drink at the age of 14, believe it or not. And I remember just absolutely falling in love with it, because I was this person who was kind of sheltered in the sense that I really didn't want to be that jock. Like, yeah, I was pretty good at sports and stuff, but that wasn't my identity. I was more into like drama, movies, and having like really fun relationships with my friends, and not so much the athletics and the high standards that I had to live up to. It was more like, well, how can I be creative? What can I do that I really enjoy and I'm passionate about? Playing guitar, playing music, anything like that. So it was really difficult in the sense that I had to live up to these standards that I really wasn't accustomed to wanting to pursue these standards. And that's when my identity shifted. And when I hit 21, and then I started to really showcase my identity with alcohol, in my system, was really powerful to me because then I didn't have to like hide my identity, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I could just be
Mhm.
my true authentic self at the most genuine way possible. And I could express myself in ways that I never thought I could when I was sober, right? So it was a really interesting kind of lead up journey to get to that really difficult point in my life, which was in my later 20s when I kind of lost all hope. And I guess that's where our story begins is, what do you do when you kind of lose all hope and you don't have a will to live anymore? And those are big words, but that's how I felt. So from the ages of from the ages of 26 to 35, I drank every single problem that I had away. I was a teacher. So I was a middle school teacher and I felt like a fraud because I was good at my job. I definitely was. I enjoyed it. I was really good at it. However, I would cope with the stresses of life, with the stresses of, not making enough money as a teacher. And as you know, it's a very difficult job. Around the Massachusetts and actually anywhere, it really doesn't matter. The standards were high anywhere you go. So it was really difficult for me to kind of figure it all out and to really embrace my true being of who I am, who is Will Gordon? Like, I don't know who that person is because I lived with alcohol in my system for such a long time that I really didn't know how to express myself in a safe and healthy way. So that's basically what happened. I started really abusing alcohol at 25 and 26. And then for 10 years thereafter, it just really progressively got worse and worse to the point where yeah, I drank myself to 2 weeks left of my life, and
Well, let's take a moment to pause there. I kind of want to
yeah,
before we go into the
yeah,
crisis moment.
of course. Sorry.
No, you're good. Was it ever fun? Was drinking ever fun for you, or was it
Oh
always a
God, yeah.
self-medication?
No, it was fun. It was fun, especially in my early 20s. It was super fun. I mean, from like 20 to 25, I think it was the most fun, too much fun. I went and studied abroad in Australia. And I remember when I was there in my junior year of college, I really fell in love with alcohol because now I was a junior, so I was a little older. I had a bigger group of friends, and I was halfway across the world, if not all the way across the world in Australia. And I'm from Boston, so it really is all the way across the world. And I had no one watching over me. It was kind of my own, my own free will to do whatever I wanted to. And that was when it really kind of kicked into gear, but it was fun. I'm not going to lie. I mean, people wouldn't drink if it wasn't fun, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's what was kind of going on in my life. Like it was a really good time in my early 20s, but only would I find out that I would start like my senior year after coming back from that trip, I started pushing my classes back to like 9, 10, 11 a.m. because I noticed that I wasn't getting up for them, which was obviously a red flag, something that I should have been paying attention to at that point in my life, but I really wasn't. I was too young and I was too naive
Yeah.
and dumb. So I really didn't put much stock into it, but
And everybody else is doing the same thing, right?
yeah, everyone else is doing
Yeah.
the same thing, right? And that makes it even harder. And when you go to a big school like I went to, and the culture of drinking was very much incorporated within the school, whether they knew that or not. But it was a big party school, so it was fun for a long time, from like 20 to 25. But
Yeah.
from
And then
like
I remember a time when I knew that I was self-medicating.
Mhm.
I knew because I would say to people things like, well, if you had the life I had, you would be drinking too.
Yeah.
Do you remember a turning point like that where you kind of knew like this was now necessary to continue getting through each day?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So so when I was working as a teacher in the North End of Boston, it was a private school at a Catholic school, and it did not pay very much. And I was so stressed out because I was basically paying myself to go to work because I was making such a little salary that I was so stressed because I was doing all this work and I was driving all the way into Boston and it was just like stress. It was so stressful because the kids was one of my most challenging groups I've ever had as a teacher, and I've been doing it for 14 years. So not only was I making little money, it was super challenging. It was during COVID. It was going into the COVID year. So half of that year was actually spent most of it actually I was in the school, but when March hit, that was like the time where that it went fully remote, and then there was like a couple more months there. But yeah, I really started hitting it hard. It was so difficult, and I didn't know how to cope with my emotions, how to cope with stresses of life. Like I didn't believe at that point of talk therapy or being vulnerable or any of those things that I found in sobriety thereafter. But
Well,
at that
especially as a
point,
teacher, I mean, I would think that there would be this like
yeah.
concern that parents or the administration would find out and
Yeah.
do something. And
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing where it's, I was really good at hiding it. That I was a closet alcoholic. I wasn't going out. I wasn't like one of those social drinkers going out to all these places and getting in
me
trouble.
neither.
No, I wasn't like that. I was like I would come home from work and drink myself into oblivion, like just get a big bottle of vodka, put it into a Gatorade bottle, and then just drink all night until I would fall asleep. And then I'd be upset with myself in the morning, like, why didn't I get anything done? Right. Like all these things that, all my responsibilities were laying right there. And I was so lost in alcohol addiction that I couldn't see any way out.
Yeah.
It got really dark really quickly. And that's just, you don't know what you don't know. And
So
unfortunately,
what happened that led you to the hospital?
sure. So at the age of 35, this is now, so from like 32 to 35 was when it really got bad. I started drinking every day, and that really got ugly quickly. I started putting on weight, like for a frame of reference here, I'm 175 pounds right now. I was 250 pounds in 2023. So that just shows you the amount of neglect I was doing to my body. I was eating poorly. I was not working out anymore. I was in such a downward spiral of denial, shame, and regret that it became almost my identity. It's all I kind of knew. And to get out of that jam was just too hard. It was just so difficult. And I didn't know how to eat, like where to start. So once I started actually feeling my liver hurting, which yes, that can happen if you drink long enough. I actually started feeling my liver hurting on the way to work one morning, and the seatbelt was cutting into my liver. And I was like, man, Will, you really did it now. And I started like crying in my car. And I remember getting to work and not wanting to go in. And the second the bell rang that day, I went and got a bottle, and I said, I'm just gonna drink myself to death. That's what I said to myself. And so I started doing that. I lost all hope in life. My poor wife at this time, believe it or not, she was the most supportive, loving wife ever. I had every reason to want to keep living, every reason to want to, be the husband that she deserves, because she's just an amazing person. And I couldn't even show up for that. I couldn't even show up for myself. I couldn't even get up in the morning. I was so physically and mentally ill that I just lost all hope of what it's like to be alive, and how precious it is to be alive, and the subtle beauty of everything around us. I just lost all hope of that, all sense of it. And once that thought came into, to my brain of what it can, what alcohol can do to you, and how it can become that identity shift, and that your brain just starts working differently because it's a depressant, and you're putting alcohol, which is a depressant, on top of like a depressive person. It's just a recipe for disaster. And that's what really happened. So to answer your question, my wife finally noticed that my skin was really bad. She saw that my eyes were really jaundiced. It was yellow in the eyes. There was a tint. So I was in such denial at the point. I said, okay, I just wanted to appease her. And I said, okay, well, let's go to the hospital. It wasn't so much like that. It was more like she kind of forced me to go. I'm self-correcting myself here. She forced me to go, let's be honest. So she forced me to go. I go in, and then I'm still lying to the doctors. I'm still lying to the doctors in the ER. They can see right away what's going on. You can't hide this from anyone. And the doctors, they did some labs on me, and they were like, oh my gosh, like how, this is what one of the doctors said to me. He's like, how much are you drinking a day? And I said, I drink every other day or something. I just lied. And he's like, I don't think so. And he did some labs, and next thing you know, my bilirubin level, which is the marker of how much your levels are, or how much your liver is functioning, like how high is it functioning, your ALT, AST levels, your bilirubin levels, your creatinine levels. I mean, there's so many different blood levels tabs that we need to kind of pay attention to, but they were all elevated, like severely elevated, like almost like 7x time elevated. It was really, really scary. So once they saw that it was so highly elevated, they detoxed me for a week. And this was it's just like right in the beginning stages of like a new job, which I actually loved this teaching position, but I was so far gone at this point and so sick, and I couldn't really function. So there I am, like this first new job that I have that I actually absolutely loved, but the damage was done. So the doctors, they detoxed me, and then they said, you have to get yourself sober. You have to stop drinking. And he looked at me and he said, just so you know, like, if you don't do this, like there is a very high likely occurrence of this occurring again. And you really need to be mindful and wary of that, because if you don't take what we're saying to you seriously, it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well for you. And so I listened to him to a point. When he said those words to me, he said, you won't be back here. You'll either be in a coffin or I don't know, but I listened to him, and I did 125 days sober. I didn't even really tell anyone. My wife, she knew, but it was just this is the thing with alcoholics. Like we don't want to trust anyone, because especially if that person that we want to trust doesn't understand like how severe an alcoholic's brain can get.
Cravings,
like, the cravings are like just the full on fledged cravings that you can't even function without alcohol in your system. That's the point that I was at that point. So when I did 125 days sober, everything got better. Like my relationships got better, like with my wife and everything like that. But I was such a dry drunk, as they say. I wasn't embracing sobriety at all. I was doing everything like you're supposed to do in sobriety. I was doing the opposite of that. So sure enough, a big flare-up happened. One of the worst arguments I ever had with my spouse, and it was all about money, because I wasn't clear-headed. I wasn't being able to generate enough money, because I wasn't a functioning human. That's how I felt. So I did 125 days, and then we had this big blow-up fight. And the first second, I heard this podcast I was listening to at the time, and they were advertising this one kind of it was like a lower concentration of alcohol in it. Mm-hmm. And I went to the store, I grabbed it, and I felt like I was 21 again with like a fake ID or before I was 21, before that fake ID, I was like, I shouldn't be here. And I was kind of walking around the store all scared, and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? So I grabbed it, I bought it. I felt so shameful, and I didn't even drink it right away. I actually brought it home, and I like put it into a pile of dirty laundry, believe it or not. And then I kind of just waited on it for 2 or 3 days or something like that. And then on that third day, I just couldn't resist anymore. I couldn't have it in my home, and I just felt like I had such low self-worth that I'm like, I'll be, I'm a burden on everyone. This is just going to be, let's see what happens. And I'll never forget the moment of opening the bottle and putting it to my mouth, and it actually being cold still, which was strange because it's been in the room for like 3 days, which was a bad omen right there. And then it was almost as if like those 3.5 months that I did prior didn't matter anymore. It was all gone. And it was like I fell off the wagon, and I scraped my body, and my jaw fell off. It was that bad of a fall off the wagon, a fall from grace. And then unfortunately I just hit it as hard as I could again. And then my liver gave up. I didn't want to believe it, but after those 3.5 months, I started drinking even more to prove a point or something. I don't know what it was. And then eventually I got big again. My skin got all bad, looking yellowy, papery. And my wife was like, "You have to go back in." I think she knew what was going on. And this time, it was like I was a willing participant at this time. And I went in, and I'll never forget. I'm sitting in the room, and the doctor, this liver doctor, and a couple of their colleagues were sitting around. It was just my mother and her father and myself. And she said, "You're going to pass away in 2 weeks if you don't do something immediately." And yeah, can you imagine hearing something like that? And I felt the floor come out of under my feet. And next thing I know, my mother is in disbelief that this is even happening, because I was always a great kid. I was never in trouble. I was always like a good student. I was a teacher my whole life. So like none of this added up to them, my parents, none of it. And there they are looking at their dying son in front of them, their youngest son dying in front of them. And they feel hopeless. And I hope to pray to God that anyone watching, listening to this, like just understand how much hurt you are doing to the loved ones around you when they see you suffering the way that you are, whether that with alcohol abuse. Because everyone knows what alcohol does to you. Everyone's has tried it, but like when you are looking at a loved one, a son or daughter, a brother, a sister, anyone that you care for, if you're looking at them and you see the loss of hope in their eyes, it's a really hard thing to grasp and to measure. So once that happened, and this is like the moment where I kind of broke open, and I just said, I don't want to die. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what to do. I needed help. I didn't know where to see. Like, I didn't know what to do. I just didn't know what to do. And I really became open and honest and vulnerable in that immediate moment. And I told all my transgressions. I said everything that was on my mind. I told my parents how much I love them, and I'm so sorry for doing this to myself, and I'm so sorry for doing it to you and to all my brothers, and I'm so sorry. I'm just so sorry. I can't believe this. And I felt worthless, like I didn't even want the liver transplant. I felt like I didn't deserve it. That's really how I felt. It's the survivor's guilt is real when you do get an organ transplant. So that's what happened, and eventually, I go and I'm there. I'm waiting, and who knows if it's going to come. And then finally, by the grace of God, I got a call. I'm there, and next thing I know, I went under the knife on a Monday, and then I woke up on a Thursday afternoon. So it was about 4 days I was out of it. The surgery was about 28 hours, something crazy like that, 28 hours, something nuts. It was really complicated. I was really sick. And mind you, at this point too, my kidneys were going. So I was also at this point on dialysis because my kidneys, I drank myself to kidney failure as well. So that was all going on. And this is where it gets really crazy. So I have the transplant. I'm lying in bed, and it's 2 weeks after, and I cannot believe I'm there. I'm sorry. The transplant happens. I'm lying. I wake up, and I can't believe I wake up. I really can't even imagine that I'm awake and I'm still alive. So I see my wife right away. I grab her hand, and we start bawling like it hurt. It hurt so much to cry, but we had to. And I said to her, on our life, on your life, on my life, on my parents' life, everyone, I will never, ever, ever, ever do this to you. Drink again. None of it. None of this will happen. And I can safely say that none of that has happened since. But at that point in my life, and then in that moment, it finally made sense to me. I want to be alive. I want to live. I want to do good in the world. I want to spread joy. I want to be inspiring. I want to be encouraging. I want to help others. And I'm like, how do I do that? So as I'm conjuring up all these ideas and being so grateful, and I cannot believe that I'm still here, I'm rehabbing from the transplant. It's 2 weeks go by, and then all of a sudden, I just get this wave, the sensation like, oh no, something's wrong. And I get really, really confused, and I don't know where I am. And then the nurses who are looking after me were like, oh, something's seriously wrong. Because I'm not talking anymore. I'm just saying weird sounds, trying to make sense of it. So the nurses, they immediately get the doctors in, and I'm shipped right back to the ER at the hospital in Western Mass here, which saved my life. Thank you, UMass Memorial. You saved my life. I love you. So they shipped me back to the hospital. I am dying. What happened was my colon just burst. It just perforated. So what all was going on from the rehab, from the drinking, from the years of abuse, my stomach lining could not hold on any longer, and it burst, and I went to septic shock. During this time period, doctors, nurses, surgeons, all of them said that I had a 5 to 6% chance, all within that range of living, because I was immunosuppressed. I was on dialysis. I just had a liver transplant. I was awaiting the kidney transplant, which would come 6 months after the liver, or 9 months after, rather. And all of a sudden, there I am back, like almost dead. Like he's on his way out again. So they actually said that to my wife. They said, you might as well say your goodbyes now and everything like that. And this was this really surreal moment. So as this is all going on, I don't really have any conscious memories of this, but I do remember as this is going on, I can hear my family talking like over me. It's really, I'm freezing cold. That's all I can remember is like I'm freezing cold, and I just hear like the Charlie Brown, like wah, 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 wah. That's all I can hear. And as that's happening, I'm slowly getting like lower and lower, and I'm like lowering, falling down. And I'm going lower and lower, like into someplace else. I don't know what it was, but I was going someplace that was kind of scary, really scary. And then as I started to embrace, like, I want to live, I want to live, I want to live. And then I started going through every relationship that I have, Margie, like every single one in my life that I've wronged because of my drinking, because I've treated someone unfairly, because I was selfish in someone's situation, when I should have not been. Like I was going through, and I was having these vivid, like I was as if I was going back in time in a time machine and revisiting all these moments of these very transformative moments of my life where things went astray and I really treated people poorly. I went to each one of these relationships and I said at the bottom of my heart, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Like that's kind of how I approached it. And I made it very specific to each scenario. And as I started to embrace that idea of forgiveness, forgiving myself, forgiving my past mistakes, becoming this person that I knew that I always had the potential to become, once I started embracing sobriety, embracing the idea of helping others, serving others, instead of coming from a self-serving perspective, how do I serve others? Once I started to embrace that, all of a sudden I started to laugh. And then when I laughed, I started to feel like the energy, whatever you want to call it, God. It was like an all-loving, it just felt like the frequency of all-loving, all-knowing, all-being, omnipresent entity that kept bringing me up. And the next thing I know, I come to, it's like 2 days later, and they did an emergency ileostomy surgery, which is they took my colon, they sewed it up, and they put it in my stomach on the outside, the right side of my belly. Mm-hmm. So that's where I would have to go to the bathroom, I thought, for the rest of my life. So the surgeon was so smart, Dr. Bellin, UMass Memorial, what a smart man. He did an emergency ileostomy surgery. And that saved my life, because if he didn't sew up my colon shut, that was it. So what happened thereafter is I lost half my colon. I lost my gallbladder. I had an ileostomy surgery put on. So I went to the bathroom in a bag for 6 months. Mm-hmm. After those 6 months, though, they did reverse it. They reversed the ileostomy surgery 6 months after, but that was because I put so much work and energy into my rehab process of getting stronger and healthier and all that, and eating the right stuff and everything. But it was very, very scary for those moments. And then the craziest thing about it was, even after the reversal of the ileostomy, which let me tell you, it is not comfortable or pleasant whatsoever. It was a very serious, ginormous procedure to reverse an ileostomy surgery. So that once they did that, I still had to wait 6 months. And then after those 6 months, I finally received my second birthday, which is the kidney transplant. So May 2nd, 2023 was the liver, and March 15th, 2024 was the kidney transplant. And in between then was the craziness of losing half my colon, my gallbladder, and everything like that. And this is all self-inflicted, all because of alcohol, all because of my low self-worth and insecurities and lack of character, or I don't know what you want to call it, but it was a lack of hope and
Yeah.
and and yeah, and then once I started to feel better and embrace my sobriety at a in a much more loving, forgiving, compassionate level, that's when everything kind of took off for me.
Well,
And
and that's what I want to talk about next, because I mean, first of all, thank you for taking us through that journey, because
yeah,
normally I really don't spend that much time going through like somebody's worst days, but I feel like it's so important
hmm
to allow you to have this moment and to help other people understand that this is not all just about losing relationships or losing us, losing our jobs or losing our houses. Like, I knew somebody else who was in the exact same situation as you were
hmm
with the liver. She was released. 5 days later, she was drinking again, and within 3 weeks, she was dead.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this really can be just that quick. And
It can happen very quickly,
yeah.
very quickly.
But I really love this image that you painted for us about sinking down into the guilt and shame and then rising back up again, as you talked about the forgiveness and the light. I mean, what a beautiful image. And for many people, who have these near death experiences, it can be life altering, but it's hard once life gets back in the swing of things
Mm.
to actualize those things.
I couldn't agree more. It's really,
Bills come, and the daily stressors of emails and just showing up for our job, and all these good intentions can just quickly seem insurmountable through all of the minutia of life. So I know that's not your story, and I would love to hear kind of how you actualized some of that. I want to be there for other people and give back.
yeah. Well, it's funny, like as humans, we know what's right and what's wrong. We know what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. And we know how good it feels to help others. We just do. That's something that we naturally know as little kids. When you see a little kid sharing a snack with another little kid, and like the joy that the little kid gets, and the joy the little kid gets, who's receiving, right? So I found that sharing my story at the hospital, with in conversations thereafter with friends and family, and just really getting into it, kind of like how I just did with you there, I started noticing like a resonance was happening. I was getting through to people. People were all of a sudden started to drink less around me, and I noticed that I had like I guess a compelling nature when I spoke about something like this, because I've been through it, I understand, and here is this person, who they thought they knew, was going to work as a teacher every single day in Boston, Massachusetts, going to, I was a teacher doing all the right things. Little did they know that I was suffering the way I was. So
Mhm.
when I finally embraced sobriety, and I put it into a serving perspective, and I started to get that charge, that energy, that frequency, that vibration of love and compassion and everything like that, I I I found a profound amount of inspiration and and excitement again. And I haven't had any of that for 14 years prior, because I was drinking every single day. So when I finally embraced my inner child, and I went on a YouTube channel, and I really told my story, and I really kind of went full authenticity, genuineness, all of it, right? Vulnerability, all of it. Once I embraced all of it and I started helping others, I absolutely fell in love, Margie. I fell in love with it. So that's what I started doing. I started my channel, and I started talking to people just as a hobby, just being, oh, this is great. Like, let's just have a conversation. I really need I really needed the pickup today. I need the support. And a lot of it was stemmed from, how can I stay sober in a world that is obsessed with drinking? And let me go on the internet and find like-minded people. And that's kind of what I did. I went online, started talking to people in like chat rooms and stuff like that, and having open, honest conversations with people who are also struggling with alcohol and other drugs and things like that. So once I put myself into that serving perspective, life just embraced me, and it got better. And then I started taking care of my body, and then I started journaling, like in practicing gratefulness, journaling, meditation, and things like that, and in being loving more to my wife and loving to my friends, and really, really embracing it all at the highest potential that I always knew I could reach. It's just a matter of putting all the cards on the table and being like, okay, it's either you go this way or you go this way. Which way do you want to go? And I'm like, whoa, Will, you're on borrowed time already. You almost died. You were this close to the brink of death. And now what are you going to do with your life? And that's how I look at it. Now, it's every day is a gift. Every day is a blessing. No minute should be wasted. And definitely no minute should be wasted with putting a poisonous substance like alcohol in your system, because it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, your socioeconomic status. Alcohol does not discriminate. And guess what? It got me. It sure got me. All right. And now I just tell my story to as many ears that want to hear it, because uh, it's it's a big loud story, but it's one that I think that is really important because it's very relatable. I mean, who can't see themselves one day drinking too much, or 1 week drinking too much, or 1 month drinking too much, or hell, like I did, 10 years, a decade of my life, the prime of my life, kaput, all because of what? You know?
So let me ask you this question as we kind of wrap up.
Yeah.
You shared earlier that during those dark days leading up to this whole hospital situation, by the way, love your cup.
I love it too. It's a fantastic mug.
Shameless plug.
Thank you kindly. Thank you kindly.
You're welcome. Shameless plug. You can get that on soberliferocks.com on the shop tab. Yes.
Great.
You said earlier on, leading up to the darkest days, that you knew that this wasn't right, but you just couldn't stop yourself.
Yeah.
And as somebody who also was in that situation, I understand now, today. What do you say to other people who haven't been through life, altering situation like this, to help them marshal their willpower or marshal their intentions into correct action?
Yeah, great question. I always frame it this way. So if alcohol is having any negativity in your life, like is it hindering anything in your life, whether that be relationships, your job, how much space is it having in that space, right? Is it having detrimental effects on any of the earlier mentioned areas of your life, right? That's kind of where I start, and not, it's almost like 99.9%. Someone will be like, oh yeah, like I drank, all my calories and I'm gaining weight, or, that could be like the smallest one, but that is one. It's something that people.
Monday morning hangovers. Yeah.
Monday morning hangovers. I hate being hungover. Yeah. So like you have to make it relatable, and you have to put it and you have to frame it in a way that they can get it, and that's unique to them in their scenario. And like I always do it that way. I always say like, oh wait, is it having too much space in your life here? Like in your relationships, has anything negative happened in this or that way? If you drank too much, or you said something embarrassing, or you really kind of put on weight, or you have low self-worth, anything that you can kind of like notice already, but you kind of are obviously kind and gentle the way you kind of approach it. And I always figure that's the easiest and best way to do it, is just let them tell you if it's having too much space in their life, and like try to help them in any way overcome the need of the physical craving need to, whether that be a social thing, like they just need that social lubricant. Like that was me. I was so scared of what I would say. I wouldn't be cool. I wouldn't be like the person anyone would want to talk to. Like I'm nothing to contribute to any conversation. That's how I felt. I really low self-worth and insecurity issues. And that's that's just like how it goes. And that's kind of how I frame it. I just try to help at that kind of level, like most relatable, easiest way to kind of get in there. And then once I do get in there, and then they start noticing like the wonderful effects of getting sober, especially after those 3 months, that pink cloud moment after month 3, at least for me, I got it big time. And then you're off to the races. And then next thing you know, they're telling other people, and they're like, hey, who wants to go and do a 5K? Who wants to go do this and this? And it's all a sober vibe, energy. environment. So it's just
Yeah.
it's beautiful to embrace sobriety the way it was naturally intended to be.
I had a girlfriend who used to say, give us 90 days. And if at the end of that you're not happy, we will gladly refund your misery.
Yeah. I always say to people, oh, that's a good one. Refund your misery. I'm gonna have to remember that one. Yeah. Oh no, I just lost it. What was it? I always say, oh, you never meet anyone that said like, oh, getting sober was like the worst thing that's ever happened to me. No, it's not. It's not gonna happen.
Never.
It's the opposite.
Never. That's awesome.
Never. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much, really, for being so vulnerable and sharing just such a painful path.
Yeah,
really
and it's
doing that.
unfortunately, it's a path that is more and more common. When I was in the hospital, all those months, and I was in the hospital for a year, so I had a lot of interesting conversations with a lot of people, all walks of life, and the most common and disturbing statistic that I found was how often these are happening, how much people are drinking themselves to liver transplant failure. I mean, to a liver transplant, or just failure. Your liver fails, and and the amount of work it truly takes to prove to the doctors in the state, like, just that you won't drink again, like the support system that you have to have, insurance. I mean, you have to have insurance, right? Like, there's all these things that come into play, but it does inevitably come down to the person who is getting the transplant, that they showcase the skills of like, okay, I am embracing this. I am going to do good with my life, if I am given the second chance at life. So people out there who are organ donors, you are the real heroes. You are the real MVPs, as they say. You saved my life, and the surgeons and science saved my life, and something else saved my life too. A miracle saved my life. A higher higher
Your
power.
power. Yeah. I love that.
Mm.
Well, Will's story to me isn't just about survival. It's about choosing life, choosing to speak up, and choosing to make meaning out of what nearly destroyed him. So let me ask you, what did this conversation stir in you? What have you learned about your own capacity to rise, to grow, to lead, just by choosing your own sobriety or making your own sober choices? Whether you're quietly living your truth or starting to feel that tug to speak louder, maybe this is your moment. Maybe it's time to move from healing to helping, from surviving to amplifying. And if you're ready to explore what that kind of sober leadership could look like for you, whether that's through writing or speaking or podcasting or mentoring or coaching, please join us at Amplify Sober Voices this January in Orlando. You don't need a big platform to make a big impact. You just need your voice and the courage to use it. Learn more at amplifysobervoices.com. We will save you a seat. Thank you so much.